We were talking in the last segment about Russell Westbrook possibly going to Miami, right? Zach says that's the team that wants him, that's going to try to make something happen. How do you think those two would fit together, and would they then be a contender in the East?
They will be a contender. I don't know. We have to see, you know, obviously if he goes there, some other players got to leave. But the tenacity of those two guys, the heart, will, and effort of those two guys, Jimmy and Russ, being able to play, I just feel like they're going to have a chance every single night. But you got to have depth. You really do. I mean, Jimmy's not a guy that needs the ball every single play for 24 seconds. So I think he and Russell could possibly coexist. But when you have another goon beside you, you feel good going in there at night.
I mean, yes, in the Eastern Conference, they'll be a contender.
Right.
But think about this. Russ has played with KD Harden. He's played with Paul George. I'm not taking anything away from Jimmy Butler, but he's not as talented as those guys. But you are in the East, and because you're in the Eastern Conference, you have a chance.
What would have to happen for a Heat trade to work?
Well, they're hard capped now, so they have to match the money almost exactly. I think Russ is around 39 this year, so you got to find 39, and they have the salaries for it. They got a lot of big, not great contracts. It's not that hard. I do not think they would be a contender in the East with Russ and Jimmy. I think they're a clear tier below. I don't like how they mesh, and to your point, like the KD and Paul George versus Jimmy, there's just a downgrade in shooting. Like, there's just not enough shooting with Russ and Jimmy. So I think they'd be a tough out every night.
It's the Eastern Conference.
Not a contender. I don't think they can win the East.
Yeah, but like after say an injury here or there to Milwaukee, then I think the door is wide open.
Well, that's certainly what we saw in the West this year. An injury here or there, everything changes. You mentioned the salaries of Russell Westbrook. That's obviously a big part of wherever he might end up. He is supposed to make, when the year he turns 34, I want you guys to brace yourself on this side of the table. I'm sorry, I have to say this number to two former players who don't draw this salary anymore. $47.1 million for the 1 year that he is 34 years old. So what is the complication for Oklahoma City as they try to find somebody who's going to want to take that contract on?
Finding someone who's going to want to take that contract on. I mean, seriously, there just aren't. That's a huge amount of money for a guy who's already trending the wrong way and has not developed a jump shot. You know, you guys both know when you start to lose the athleticism, the jump shot is what saves you. I'm not sure he has it. And a lot of the teams that need point guards or that have a hole at their position are so young that it doesn't make sense for them to get a 30, 31, whatever he is, year old player. Like, it's going to be hard for them to find a match, I think.
Do you think that he's trending the wrong way?
No, I still think that Russell has a good future in the league. I mean, averaging a triple-double, I think the only issue that I ever have with Russell is he just has one gear, you know, and there's sometimes during the game, particularly at the end, that he needs to take it down a notch, let the game slow down and make the proper plays. But his greatest strength is also his greatest weakness, you know, so you have to deal with that when you have great players.
Well, we'll see if he ends up moving. Already so far, less than just a little bit under $4 billion in new contracts given out this week. Ooh. We've also had a third of the top players in the league. So if you take everyone who is on All-NBA, a third of those players have changed teams. 5 of the 10 All-Star starters from February have switched teams. Kawhi, Paul George, Durant, Kyrie, Kemba, and that doesn't even count AD, who is reserved. So what do you guys think of all of this player movement? We had Vince on earlier, and he was like, this is a lot different from when I came in the league. As you've seen things trend, is it good, bad for the NBA?
I think it's great because the one thing, the NBA is the only sport that one player can change the fate of a franchise. Now, in other sports, you need multiple players, football, baseball. We saw Kawhi, the one player, change the whole fate of a franchise, and that's the beauty about basketball. So I love it because you get a team that goes from nothing to something overnight in just 1 year.
I think it's great too, Rachel. You know, the big thing for me this season, I'm so excited, is we don't know who's going to win.
Yep.
But this is the first time in a long time where it's not like, all right, man, just get a Warriors the chip. Just let them push all the down.
Just
we don't know.
Going to be in the finals for the next
we don't know.
years.
You know, so I'm just really excited about the parity that has become in the league this summer.
Just from a pure business standpoint, it's clearly good for the league. Everybody loves the player movement. It's people obsess over it, and I do think teams don't lock themselves in prison for too long anymore. And I think it's good for star players because they're the most important people in the league, period. And if they're stuck on a dysfunctional team, they've learned, hey, my contract's only got 2 years left. Like, I'm going to flex my power and get out of here and get somewhere else that makes more sense to me. Now, I do think keeping teams together that work is one of the unique things about basketball. When you play with someone 4 and 5 years, you can close your eyes and see how they move. Like, I do worry that maybe we're losing a little bit of that, because that's special, right? That's a feeling you want.
Well, it is, and that's the reason why I think Denver's going to be a really good team this year. You know, you have those good young pieces, you start to lock them up, and you keep the ancillary pieces around them too, just so you can grow together. And you go through a Game 7 loss like they did in Portland, you learn something about yourself and your team there. And you don't just start saying, okay, I like that guy better, and just start picking people apart. Keep those guys together a little bit and see what happens.
Thanks so much for watching ESPN on YouTube. For more sports analysis and highlights, download the ESPN app. And for live streaming and premium content, subscribe to ESPN+.